Greetings, I'm Ken McAuliffe of Stereophile Magazine. We are here at AXPONA today and for the next 3 days, and I have the pleasure of sitting next to Paul Mills, Technical Director for Fyne Audio out of Scotland, I believe.
Scotland, yeah. Yep.
And next to Paul is Managing Director Andrzej Sosna, both formerly with Tannoy for many, many years.
Yes.
And they have several announcements to make. I'm particularly interested in this vintage classic series speaker they have here, which should be down on the floor so we can play it. What's it doing up there? Well, tell me a little bit about this speaker lineup. But you had mentioned the importance of its isoflare point source driver and that technology, which is what these speakers are sort of built around.
Yeah. Yes, well, that's our core technology. There are many other features which are unique to us, but the whole point of the isoflare is that not just are the bass mid-range units and the high frequency on the same axis, but they are perfectly time aligned. So that results in a speaker whereby the harmonics are totally true, and even when you move off axis, the frequency response doesn't change apart from the natural roll-off of the tweeter at high frequencies. So, like a conventional loudspeaker, whereby it only really works in terms of the mid-range and high-frequency alignment, it only really works on axis. As you move axis, the crossover becomes, it has errors in terms of phase and amplitude, but with this technology, you can move around and the nature of the sound remains true, essentially. We covered a lot of ground there, Paul.
Yeah, maybe. Let me ask a question particularly about the driver. I know when I reviewed the smaller model, I forgot what it was, that was like a couple of years ago. I noted those sort of like sandwich dimples in the surround. What are those little dimples all about? And what is the surrounding the cone made out of?
Well, the cone's made from paper. It's a compressed pulp paper, special mix of different types of paper.
Paper is good.
They're very strong and very lightweight. And the surround is another one of our technologies. It's called Fyne flute. That's something that we designed in Illinois. We've started gradually used it in all of our products. When we first came out with the F1, the first series, it had actually a paper roller surround on it, which is traditional for those bigger drivers. But we found we couldn't use that for the smaller drivers. That's too stiff. So we developed this Fyne flute surround, which is a rubber surround, don't know the exact material that's made from. But anyway, so we designed the fluting so as it would act as an absorber. So when energy comes along the cone and hits the surround, it gets absorbed by the surround, and it doesn't reflect back down. So that helps to avoid any mid-range kind of interference with reflections coming back down the cone.
Does the fluting, or what I call a dimple, that's the fluting.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes, indeed. So with a conventional surround, you've got the same distance from the voice coil to the termination. So there's a tendency for some, at some frequencies, reflections to go back down the cone. What the surround does is to make that sort of discontinuous in a way, so any reflections are spread over a wide range of frequencies and at such a low level that they don't become an issue particularly.
So I know the Vintage Classic and Vintage Series 5, or rather 8SM and Classic 10, is that correct?
Yep.
And they're definitely retro. On the website it says these are merging retro-inspired aesthetics with the latest developments in acoustic design and engineering. Why create such a classic British-looking, very vintage, old-school-looking speaker now? We have crazy designs that look like walking pods, or I'm sure you guys remember that movie. It was a great British movie, The Day of the Triffids. Did you remember that? Yeah, that's what the speakers look like now, The Day of the Triffids. They're nuts, and boxes can sometimes be frowned upon. But why create such a classic-looking speaker now?
Well, two reasons really, but retro became popular over the last few years in various different markets. So there's kind of a popularity, people were interested in the retro style again. So that was one reason. But another reason you mentioned, we started 2017, and when we started the business, we went for modern styling. Everything was contemporary styling.
Right, yeah, the little ones I reviewed were pretty modern looking.
Yeah, yeah, and that was deliberate. We wanted. You also mentioned we came from tannery before. When we started, we didn't want to look like anything that was from the previous company. So we steered away from doing anything with this sort of retro feel to it. So all the products we developed were sort of new, modern looking. But then 5 years later, after we started, retro was becoming popular in the market, and we thought, well, yeah, we're 5 years old now. Why don't we use our modern technology, but go back to the retro styling? So we just decided that was the right thing.
So when you think retro and speakers, we're talking about a wide baffle, which is...
This one is more retro with a wider baffle and not as deep. That's a traditional sort of retro style.
Right.
The vintage, I've got one behind me here, a vintage Fyne. There's a more modern take on a retro. There's more modern detailing on that. It still has a kind of retro feel to it, but it's a more modern.
What does that little knob do on the front of that speaker?
So that's a control called presence.
Oh, so it's similar to the presence and energy controls out here. Tell me about those controls.
Right, on all our speakers, the presence control governs the amount of energy in the 2 to 5 kilohertz region, and that's quite an important base, as any recording studio engineer can tell you, because that affects how far forward the presentation is, particularly, say, if you're something like female vocals. You can effectively dial how far forward stereo image is into the room to compensate for acoustics and also personal taste. So it's an interesting, very useful feature to have. The other control is for high frequency energy, which affects the plus or minus how many dB you've got above the crossover point, approximately plus or minus 3 dB. So that's effectively how bright the treble energy is. Again, a consideration with the room acoustics, system matching, person taste. So these things are very useful to have, and we've done them in a way people sometimes frown upon control hot speakers as they do terminal controls and amplifiers, but we've implemented it in the crossover circuitry in a way that it's doesn't degrade the signal path, which was the sort of difficult thing to teach.
Does that come without a grill cloth?
There was a grill cloth with it. It's on the back of the grill.
That would be delicious.
Yeah, and the grill can fits on the back. It's got magnets, so it can just sit on the back of the product.
No,
using it that, but that's not an important point, because if someone wants to put the grill on, then you can dial up the HF energy to compensate for the HF loss that you're going to get. So it's useful.
And why show the little sort of charts and graphs on the front? I mean, that's that embraces sort of old school geekery. I mean, I love stuff like that. But do people who buy these speakers like to see that now?
Yeah, I really like them. So yeah.
It's just a graphical representation of what the controls do.
Oh, right.
Basically. So,
Yeah. It sort of just clench on the back. Well, that's great. Oh, so it covers the whole thing. Beautiful. And what does that speaker weigh?
I think this one's about 30 kilograms. So
not too bad, not too bad. And is this in a room playing, or is one of the vintage series playing in a room somewhere here?
Yeah, what vintage 15 playing just across the corridor.
Okay, great. Well, tell me a little bit about the bass tracks, Tactrix diffuser system within both of those speakers, I believe.
Right. Basically, speakers are often front ported or rear ported. Front ports, you can hear turbulence, sometimes rear port, not good in terms of reflections of that wall. But in both cases, it's fairly directional. What the bass tracks technology does is to fire a port down over a Tactrix diffuser, which is the mathematical name fluid profile of it. And the function of that is wherever the plane wavefront hits the diffuser, it radiates there's a 360-degree spherical wavefront.
Yeah, this is open. It's open around the sides here. It's just
so it's the same with the large speaker as
Yeah,
well?
so
I was thinking it was a horn. It's not a horn.
no, so this patented technology enables a 360-degree dispersion of energy to the room, which makes the speaker a lot less susceptible to positioning issues.
Was there something like that on the smaller model that they reviewed a couple of years ago?
if it was in F1 5, yes.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Same idea.
Yeah. Huh. What else should we know about the newer or the technology you're using in your new vintage line? Vintage and vintage classic line.
Basically, it's just a development in terms of taking our technologies further, in terms of what we're capable of doing. We have, in all speakers, we have all the same elements, which are core technologies, which we build around, essentially.
But we also developed our own cryogenic treatment facility in our factory.
Oh, wow.
So all the high-end models, we do sort of full cryogenic treatment.
On the entire speaker?
No, the electronic parts.
So, and what does that give you?
Well, it helps to, the process is to cool down to minus 170 degrees very slowly and then warm back up again. And that is the effect of releasing stresses in the crystal structure of the metals, whether the wires or the solder joints in particular. So sort of the lines, the molecules. Paul can explain this better.
Is it like a superbreakin or something?
Well,
That's what it sounds like.
it's kind of along those lines, but it does give a permanent effect. For example, one of our concerns is solder joints, where the crystal structure can be quite bad. So what this does is effectively realign the crystal boundaries of inside cables, solder joints, and we also found if you take, for example, a signal capacitor and treat that in isolation, you can hear the difference there in terms of where the stresses inside the materials are effectively relieved by that. But we do the whole crossover, including the wiring, so it's basically holistic rather than some people just, for example, do just cables. So after the prior treatment, no further operations are done to the crossover apart from final testing. So it's then left for the learnings. We find the difference is quite dramatic.
How cold does it get? What do you bring the temperature down to?
It's around 170, talking Celsius. What's that in Fahrenheit? Celsius. Yeah, you guys, you sound cool, some face.
Yeah. And is it brought back to room temperature naturally or some other way?
Yes, it's slowly taken back to room temperature over the course of a couple of days. So it's quite a long process, and a lot of it is developing that process so it has the most beneficial results. So it's exactly what we do and how we do it is kind of proprietary, and it's probably different to what other people do. But doing ourselves enables us to have that control, but also keeping the whole process in-house, avoid sending out to some third party and not knowing how they're doing it.
Right.
We do that.
So is cryogenic becoming a thing in the industry? I'm ignorant of this. Of treating internal parts and crossovers and solder joints and that?
I think it's been a thing for a while with components. A lot of components, a lot of cable companies offer cryogenic versions.
Yeah, it started off with cables, good many years.
I remember it being a thing in the 90s. I didn't know it was still going on. And so the little upward, not firing, but the upward pointing cone at the bottom, what is that made of?
That's aluminium. It's machined aluminium.
And how big is it in one of these speakers?
It's big enough. I couldn't tell you the actual dimension, but it's maybe that sort of size. So you'll see it in the vintage 15. You can see that one. That big it is.
Okay.
And it's much bigger in the vintage 15. It must be about 15 centimeters or so.
And how efficient are these speakers, respectively?
Those ones, I think, are 94 dB. So we're looking at, for the vintage 5, looking at somewhere in the region, from memory, around 88, 89.
What was probably
So generally tube friendly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, the classic 5, sorry, it's 87 on the classic 5. And the most efficient of all is the vintage 15, which is 97. So
That's in the other room.
yeah, and that's one you can listen to in the other room. So, as you say, very much tube friendly, but at the same time, they will have pretty high power handling. So, if you want to use a fairly big solid state amplifier, that's good too. So, it effectively caters for all tastes, essentially.
Fine. Well, let's talk about the newest announcement. And Mr. Brightman sent me the press release on the SuperTrack Super Tweeter, newly patented radial dispersion system.
Yes. So
Oh, we have one.
we have one here.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So if I can hold it for you. Sim tweeters traditionally have been forward firing. We designed a few in our previous lives. The problem there is it makes them very directional. Such high frequencies will beam like a sort of laser effectively. So that as you move off axis, the dispersion is not very good at all. So what this technology does is to fire the energy upwards. And again, we're using the Tratrix profile, seeing the
Right.
cone there. Same principle as the base system, in effect. So the energy from the dome is, when it hits, radiates at 90 degrees through 360.
Oh, right.
In fact,
actually demonstrates what it's doing here.
What this does, this is where we get back to the principle of the isoflare driver, which is a point source. This device is situated rearwards on top of the speaker at the acoustic source of the isoflare. And that ensures that the harmonics from the super tweeter are in phase time aligned with that of the main driver. Now, there's a lot to say about super tweeters. It can get very complicated.
Well, so this addresses the frequency we can actually hear. Is this correct?
In a way,
Well,
but that's not the big issue.
Okay.
That's not really how this is worked. It does do that, but the main benefit is not really the fact you can hear ultrasonic frequencies. The main benefit is putting back in harmonics that you can hear that get lost in the fact that most speakers have a linear phase response that follows at the edges. So the phase goes out of alignment at the extremes, and we correct for that using in the low frequencies using a subwoofer. If you add a subwoofer to the system, it corrects the phase response at the low frequency end of your system, and we're quite used to doing that, adding a subwoofer to a system.
Mm-hmm.
But on the high end, so this is doing the same thing on the high end. It's correcting the phase response, and the interesting thing is that there's a diagram in that version that shows you this. But even in the Redbook Stein CD, which goes up to that diagram. It's this diagram here. This is the phase response of a typical loudspeaker, and the phase response goes off at each end, so you correct it with the subwoofer. And this is correcting the high frequency end. And even with the CD, there's no phase errors right up to 22 kilohertz with the CD. But most speakers' phase responses rolling off at, well, some roll off at 10 kilohertz, but ours might roll off at maybe 16, 17, something like that. This is adding it back in again. It adds the harmonics back in to the system that otherwise you can't perceive. So it's putting those harmonics back in.
Is this an operation at the show?
Yeah, yes, it certainly is. You can hear it later on.
It's not now because this is what we've got.
Yeah.
Right. What is the little dial control?
That's simply for the amount of the energy and the level you're putting into it. And a bit like the subwoofer, people get one and they wind it up too high, then realise that isn't right. It's almost imperceptible what it does, but it does have a effect not just on the sense of space and sound staging, but it does have an effect we found, and other people have found, on the bottom end as well, in terms of how tight and accurate the bass sounds. The reason for that is the bass instruments such as bass guitar and percussion instruments have a leading edge.
Right. Right. Huh.
It's, we think, the maintaining the phase relationship of that leading edge accurately makes the equivalent bottom end. But that's the kind of surprising thing. Several reviewers and people who have evaluated it think, okay, I wasn't expecting the bass to sound better.
I don't see opposite. It's not intuitive at all. Adding HF will do that, but it's to do with putting all those harmonics back in again, which changes the overall timbre of the music. So it's quite complicated. So Dr. Paul wrote a white paper describing this whole process, but because it's not something that you can immediately, people can't immediately grasp. So, and it's trying to explain that there are some acoustic benefits of ultrasonics. Some people could perceive ultrasonics through their skull, and but mainly this is about improving the coherence and face coherence. So,
just I think the sort of final thing to say is about the dome itself, which is a thinly ply carbon fibre weave. Metadomes like magnesium and titanium, they have quite a high peak where they break up, normally around 34 kilohertz, or sometimes up to 40 kilohertz. But because the weave, the structure of the carbon fibre is optimised, it means that there aren't any peaks or rests, all distributed at a very low level. And the material is so rigid that it gives a frequency response up to 60 kilohertz.
So it's one per speaker?
Yes, just one per speaker. Yeah. It's a black dome, you can see that.
And I see a left and right channel and a ground screw. How do these wire into your system?
They simply connect to the terminals on the back of the main speaker.
Oh, okay.
If you buy wiring or have got HF connections, you've had trouble. With our speakers, we have majority of them have a ground terminal, which provides a drain for any radio frequency interference that can be picked up by cabling. So we have our own special high-end cable we make in-house, which is designed for this, with the 3 connections, which you can see next door.
Are these parts aluminum?
Yep, they are. Yeah. And these are all machined at a nearby facility in Scotland.
Yeah, only in Scotland.
Are they sold in pairs, and how much?
It's $3,500 a pair. Yeah, they're sold in pairs. $3,500.
I'm so old, and you know what it looks like to me the first time I saw a photo of this. It looks like Morse code. More true for that.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. Be a very big capper.
The thing is, once the concept that you need to have enough firing system to get the dispersion 360 degrees, so the room gets full of it rather than it beaming. So once you have that concept of firing, you need to be able to suspend the Tractrix cooling diffuser in some way. And we went through various design iterations and ended up in this one. But you have to have something a bit like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Very cool. I can't wait to hear it.
Yeah.
Something else we should be discussing? You guys want to add anything to our interview?
No, I mean, the other product we mentioned, the SP range, the F7 SP range, which is not next door, but the room next to that. You can hear the 703 SP.
Okay, let me pose that as a question, I guess, and that'll be it. You mentioned the SP range. Can you tell me about the SP range of speakers?
Yeah, so we have various SP ranges, and they usually have been done they've usually taken technologies from a range above them and brought them down to a lower price point, and that's what we've done with the 7SP. We've got the 700 series at the moment, and there's 4 models in our range, and we have the F1 range, which is our high-end contemporary range. And what we've done is we've taken the technology from the F1 range and brought it into the 700 series. So it's the F1 cabinet is a particular shape. It's one of these cabinets designs that you either like or you don't like. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. But the 700 series is more middle ground, so it's a very attractive looking cabinet. And so we've taken the technology, the same drivers from F1, and all the same features, crossovers. We've taken the same plinth that's in the F1. So we've basically taken the F1 features and put it into the 700 series and called it SP, which stands for special production. And we've done it for 2 models, the 8-inch drive unit and the 10-inch drive unit.
Great. Well, thank you for speaking with us today.
I think it goes well.
Can't wait to hear.
Yep, thanks for taking time. It's so efficient.
My pleasure. Just soon as you need more coffee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. In fact, there's coffee right there. I'm thinking I'm going to make coffee right now. Thank you.